Welcome to Grammar 4L. In this booklet, we will be going over verb tenses and forms. We'll learn about infinitives, and then we'll diagram infinitives. So let's get started first with the verb tenses and forms. In this booklet, you're going to be doing pretty much exactly what you did in Grammar 4K. So I'm going to go kind of quickly over this. If you want a more in-depth explanation, go ahead and look at the Grammar 4K video. But essentially in this booklet, we have learned all of the simple tenses and we know all about progressive and perfect form. So we know that each verb tense is a form that expresses the time of the action or state of the verb. We also know that we'll be working with both regular and irregular verbs and the different tenses and the different forms. And we also know that whenever you have a helping verb, you need to make sure that helping verb agrees with your subject, or the simple tense will agree with the subject. But the progressive form and the perfect form as your main verbs, those will never agree with the subject. You have to get the helping verbs to agree with them. So always make sure you're paying attention to that. In the explanation page, we go over simple tenses with a regular and irregular verb again. And we also go over the different forms with the tenses, so past progressive, present progressive, etc. Please remember we do have a reference page in the back. You do not need to memorize how to spell every single perfect form of all the different verbs that we use in this booklet. Please be sure you are using that resource so you don't get a mistake just for misspelling something. Like I said, in this booklet, we're going to be doing the exact same thing that we did in 4K. So here you can see we're double underlining our verbs and we are going to be writing in the tense or the tense and form. So just make sure that you're following all directions and you're spelling everything correctly. So now we're going to get into the actual teaching of a new thing in this booklet. We're going to go over infinitives. You've already learned about infinitives in previous grammar booklets, but here we're just going to apply that knowledge a little bit more. You have already learned that an infinitive is a form of the verb that does not provide a tense. It is not conjugated to agree with the subject. That's what that means. Instead, this verb is going to be the word to and the verb itself. So here we have our example. To craft is our example. Sasha loves to craft. Notice that in this, an infinitive acts like a noun. Even though it's a verb, it acts like a noun. So Sasha loves to craft. What does she love to do? She loves to craft. To craft is the direct object. It receives the action of the verb. To craft is not conjugated. It is not what is being done in this sentence. Instead, it is receiving the action of what's being done in this sentence. One of the tricky parts about infinitives is that it can get confused with a prepositional phrase because we're using the word to. So it's important for you to remember the difference between a prepositional phrase and an infinitive. An infinitive is a verb that does not agree with the subject. However, a prepositional phrase is a phrase that ends with a noun or a pronoun. So here we have two examples. To vacation is a luxury. In this sentence, vacation is not your main verb, it's not your helping verb. It is simply a verb that has not been conjugated, but is acting like the subject, or acting like a noun as the subject. Whereas in that second sentence, my family travels to Italy. Italy is not a verb. It's not something you can do. It's simply a place. So that is a perfect example of a prepositional phrase, to Italy, Italy being the OP. So like I said, in that top sentence, to vacation is a luxury, to vacation is acting as a noun. It is a subject. It is the subject of this sentence. And that's something that you'll just want to figure out is first, cross out all your prepositional phrases and make sure you get those out of the way, and then focus in on what's going on with the word to. Is it acting, or is it part of the infinitive, or what's happening with it? And then you can see that to vacation is your subject, luxury is your PN. It's telling you, or it's renaming the subject of to vacation. A luxury is to vacation. See how you can switch those, and it doesn't change the meaning. So let's play with this a little bit more with the sentence diagramming. Here we have the sentence, to water ski is incredibly fun. So first, we have no prepositional phrases, so we can't cross anything out. Second, we have the phrase to water ski. That is going to be an infinitive in this sentence. Water ski itself is not conjugated to agree with the subject or anything. Instead, it is a non-conjugated verb. So I'm going to put parentheses around that for myself because that helps me to remember that that is actually going to be one entity in this sentence. So what is our subject? Well, to water ski. That's what this sentence is all about. Is our verb, and then fun is actually describing the subject. To water ski, it's fun. That's the predicate adjective. And of course, incredibly is describing to what extent it is fun. It is incredibly fun. So now we can start in our diagram. Here we have our line, and we're separating the subject and the predicate. And of course, since we do have a PA, we're going to have a little diagonal line to separate the verb from the PA. We do have a describing word for the PA, so I'm going to make another diagonal line below the PA, or where it will go. And now we need to figure out how we're going to diagram this infinitive. So this is where it gets a little fun. You make a little body where you've got your legs and your torso, and then the arms of this little body are going to look a little something like this, where you have a long horizontal line and then a shorter diagonal line at the beginning of it. And what you do with this is you're going to write the infinitive, so we're going to start with that for our diagram. You're going to put the verb of the infinitive on the long horizontal line, and then to of the infinitive goes on the diagonal line. This is how you're going to diagram an infinitive, no matter if it's in the subject, if it's the direct object or PN, whatever it is, this is what it's going to look like. It's just the placement of it on the line, the long horizontal line, that changes. So now everything else is exactly what you've already worked with. So you have your verb, you have your PA, and then you have your adverb, which is describing the adjective. And that is how you will diagram this sentence. So it's pretty straightforward. Just remember that you make that little guy with his arms out like that. If you have any questions about this or any other grammar booklet, please contact the owner of your Gideon Center or whoever grades your grammar.